the ecosystems are going to be far more complex, requiring a level of abstraction above them, or failures are going to proliferate, because complexity is something that challenges complex system development. If we're going to be managing this world with software, and we are, then we need to get the software to really think through the possible solutions. And that's what generative AI offers us. And then involve humans at the right time and take actions when needed to prevent disasters.
Marty, thank you so much for joining. We are doing this interview before Edge World Summit, which is going to happen at the Computer History Museum in Mountain View on April 2nd and 3rd. Marty is going to be giving a keynote. And Marty, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you see the industry evolving?
Okay, sure. Thank you, Philippe. So I've been in the industry for 5 software companies, and I've seen major change. I was there when the internet came into being, and this generative AI change is going to be equal to that. And I've seen a lot, and right now things are accelerating quicker than ever before.
Yeah, and we met when you were at Forte, and Forte was kind of one of the key early software environment to develop internet applications. And so as we were connecting the PC to the internet, there was a need to create those environments. Tell me a little bit how you used those thinking to create Vantiq and to adjust to this new environment.
Well, there are similarities, actually. Forte was established to make the internet work for mission-critical applications at a time when people didn't believe it. In fact, even getting funding was a bit challenging because the internet was viewed as a toy, maybe for email. And we said, no, we're going to use it for home banking, for New York City's 911 system. And the argument was, is that really going to happen? Is that really possible? You know, it's too much like a toy, perhaps. What we're seeing now with generative AI is very similar. We are seeing a major change in that software is going to become intelligent and non-deterministic. And what I mean by that is we're going to be able to automate responses and use intelligence from LLMs, large language models, to basically make recommendations and then longer term to take action. And it's going to vary, it's going to change over time because these systems are going to learn more. We are in for a whole new world of computing, and the world needs it. It needs it because we have so many impacts that are challenging, such as climate change, defense, safety, and security. And now the systems are going to be able to be built that can address these challenges very quickly and in real time.
So what's different about this? Is it kind of the real-time aspect, and how does the real-time aspect change everything and requires generative AI?
The first use of generative AI, and what we're seeing massive adoption, hundreds of millions of people have signed up to and using it in the last year only. What we're seeing is human-driven generative AI. Tell me how to do this. How do I do that? Write this email for me. Create these videos. It's very exceedingly powerful as an adjunct to what humans are doing. What we're going to see next, which is going to be even more powerful, is the real-time analysis of what's happening by getting information from sensors, services, and other systems, and then make recommendations on what actions to take and actually take those actions. We're going to automate a lot of what happens in the world, and the effect of this is going to be more dramatic even than the internet itself, although of course it's based on using the internet.
So basically what we're talking about here is understanding, right? So creating a certain level of situation and contextual awareness, and then acting on that insights. So what it means is basically it's basically being able to react in real time, as well as be able to think like a little bit like the human. When we walk, it's real time, but then we have to think when there are obstacles or when there are things that are in front of our path. What type of infrastructure do we need to build in order to create that ability to respond dynamically based on what we're seeing? What do you think we need?
Well, the infrastructure is a combination of hardware and software. First of all, right now, LLMs and generative AI generally runs in the cloud. That's going to change. The training could run in the cloud because that's very very CPU intensive or GPU intensive. But the actual inferencing, the actual questioning can run on the edge and will run on the edge. And if you look at certain environments, like in defense, they're not going to access the cloud. They're going to have systems where they are that have to be accessed and inferenced in real time. And so that's going to be one of the major shifts, is to edge computing. Another major shift we're going to see is automation and monitoring the automation. So for example, if you're in a situation where a car accident occurs, simple automation might be get the first responders, the closest police car to the accident, and send them over there. The risks with that are not great. If you inadvertently send somebody to, or send the first responder to that location and it's not needed, okay, not too bad. But what about defense? What about missiles? What about if a missile is being fired at you? Should a drone automatically be sent off and then a human involved? I mean, these are massive changes to how these systems are going to run. The architecture has to be monitoring what's going on, orchestrating it, and it's going to be distributed. It's going to be on the edge with potentially cloud access as well for further information.
Why do we need generative AI to be able to create those applications and monitor kind of what's happening in the real world?
Generative AI is needed because of the vast amount of knowledge it has and the ability to draw upon that knowledge and act. So if you look at the LLMs that are created today, they basically have mankind's historical knowledge in them. And it's not just pure facts, but it's also what are poems and ideas and essays, their opinions on what to do. And that type of information is used. But there's another major trend that's going to happen, which is the vector databases containing the local or specific knowledge to a situation is really where the trend is going to be. So if you're in the healthcare industry, for example, you can put loads of manuals and also historical data and patient data online that is validated, less likely to hallucinate then, and specific to the situation at hand. That trend is going to be major. These private databases, then the LLMs themselves can be used to convert things into English and create conversations.
That makes perfect sense, right? So it basically, generative AI enables software to be more dynamic and more thoughtful, right? It's enabling the software to actually handle any type of situation, assuming that there is historical data that can support what the next course of action is.
That's right, but that also creates some problems. It's non-deterministic because you could have different solutions over time as the system itself learns, and it can also, as we've heard, hallucinate. And we, for example, have a patent of using a voting algorithm to try our best to get away from those types of problems.
And so if you're thinking about now putting your hat as an entrepreneur, what would be some advices that you would want to give to entrepreneurs who are today trying to build those applications for the real world?
I guess the biggest piece of advice is absolutely incorporate generative AI in the applications you're building. If they're real-time applications, get the data using generative AI to analyze it and either make recommendations or actually take actions. This is not just specific to some of the examples I gave, it's very general. If we're going to be managing this world in with software, and we are, then we need to get the software to really think through the possible solutions. And that's what generative AI offers us. And then involve humans at the right time and take actions when needed to prevent disasters. Basically, it fits almost every environment that exists in one way or another.
Is there an argument to be made that the ecosystem around you is going to be even more important in building those new dynamic and real-time applications than before? That before, you were building your application and you were kind of pushing the application to the real world, and now before you build your application, you need to understand how your application is going to interact with an entire ecosystem in order to be successful.
The answer is absolutely yes. You're dealing with a lot of more sensors, IoT. This is going to, feedback loop is going to get IoT sensors to proliferate like crazy. Once we're using this kind, then that kind becomes an obvious need, et cetera. And also getting to the various different LLMs. You're not going to depend on just one. In many cases, it's going to be very specific to the situation at hand. And therefore, you're dealing probably with multiple clouds, many edge computers. And the short answer to your question is the ecosystems are going to be far more complex, requiring a level of abstraction above them, or failures are going to proliferate, because complexity is something that challenges complex system development.
That's what the conference is going to talk about, right? So it's going to talk about building those dynamic application and building and understanding how to create ecosystem to really solve the problem, as well as leveraging the ecosystem to bring your system to markets. And so, obviously, I mean, when I'm talking to your team, I'm always amazed by the amount of companies that are working with you to actually bring Vantiq to market. Do you want to comment a little bit on that? Or?
Yeah, what we're seeing is a large number of independent software vendors looking to use our technology to build the next generation solution so that they could get to market quicker with much less effort and actually be successful, because the complexity issue we just spoke about leads to a lot of problems. And we basically reduce those problems. I'll give you an example. In healthcare for remote patient monitoring, for addressing various situations, generative AI is exceedingly helpful, but you're dealing with far more complex ecosystems. They're distributed, they're collecting data from lots of sensors, and the sensors will be growing. So this level of complexity requires systems like us, and what we're seeing is ISVs, independent software vendors, latching onto us quicker than ever before, because again, their time to market and their ability to build sophisticated function and then change it as the requirements change.
And do you think, I mean, if you're thinking about entrepreneurs, right, and how to go to market faster, do you think generative AI, building a generative AI is possible, and get to market quicker? Or do you think like the generative AI part is going to be the most difficult to build, and it's going to take time to get it right? So, I mean, I'm kind of thinking, if I am an entrepreneur today, where do I put my effort? Do I put my effort into building the infrastructure, gathering the data and the connectivity, or do I build the model? Or do I do both? And if I do both, I mean, does that mean that I'm going to have to raise far more money than I was used to raise before?
Okay, well, to be very forthright about it, there's definitely more challenges because you're including LLMs and you're including feedback, and you might want to choose which LLM. You got to make sure they don't hallucinate, et cetera. What a system like Vantiq does is hides that complexity. So I'm not going to say it's easier than it was before, because the systems are doing so much more, but we make it dramatically an order of magnitude or more easier than to hard code the interactions between these real-time systems, real-time data that comes from sensors or other systems, and the generative AI. So systems like us are an absolute requirement, but still there's a lot of effort that has to be put into thinking about what the applications are going to do, how they're going to behave, even how do you test these applications. So the job of software designers and developers is not going to get that much easier, but by using a system like Vantiq, it's not going to get that much harder. And I predict there's going to be a trend. Now, we are first to market, but there are going to be other companies that address this need too, for sure. They have to, because to build these systems that are absolutely required does create a level of complexity that you have to create abstractions above to make it easy to develop, relatively easy.
Well, Marty, thank you so much for coming. I think you've done a pretty good job at explaining what it is that is happening and why people should be there. I mean, it's going to be a major change in terms of how to build software, how to think about what the software do, and then how to market those software. So and hardware, and that's what the conference is about. And obviously, Vantiq is one of the key thought leaders in that space today. So we're very glad to have you actually taking a prominent role at the conference.
Thank you, Philippe, and I'm looking forward to seeing you at the conference.